So I'm honestly just gonna freestyle this. I was gonna write up a whole thing, but my name is Joe, and I'm making this video because I saw a video online. Some dude named Rockin' News came to Niagara Falls, New York, and made a video. It's got like 1.4 million views, and it was basically talking about the area. And honestly, it's some dude from out of town, and he came through and he interviewed just like a bunch of random people. Didn't seem like they really knew too much about what they were talking about, so I felt the need to clear the air a little bit. For me, from my background, I grew up in Niagara Falls, New York. So the concept of this video, the title of this video is, why is Niagara Falls, USA so fucked up, right? Because that's what the number one question I always get asked is, basically, right? So the first thing I've got to do is kind of explain that, first of all, I grew up there for 30 years, right? Ever since I was like 2 weeks old, 3 weeks old, all the way till I was 30, and then I moved. So I know what I'm talking about. When you go out of town, you go to like Florida, right? You tell people you're from Niagara Falls, right? The first thing they think of is just the water, which is honestly, that's what everybody across the world knows it as, right? Nobody knows that there's an actual like a city, like a small city on both sides, right? So this is where things get confusing, right? Because there's really three Niagara Falls. You got Niagara Falls, the waterfall. You have Niagara Falls, New York, the small city on the American side of New York State. And then you've got Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada, right? Obviously on the Canadian side. So you've got three Niagara Falls. So depending on where you are, you know, if you're in Buffalo, you say Niagara, I'm from Niagara Falls. They know you're from Niagara Falls, New York. You go to Toronto, they think that you're talking about the Canadian side, Niagara Falls, Ontario. You know, you go to Florida, they think that you grew up in the water, right? So when people from outside the area come, they're expecting it to be like a Yellowstone National Park. They're expecting it to be like a Grand Canyon, right? They don't realize that there's an actual place where people live, right? Like Niagara Falls, New York is unique in the sense where there's an actual city. Like there's two different cities on each side. And like you don't go to the Grand Canyon and see, you know, a city named Grand Canyon City at the top of the canyon. You don't go to the Yellowstone National Park and see a city behind the, you know, Old Faithful, the geyser, right? So a lot of people are surprised, right? And then when they're traveling through, like if let's say they're coming from Alabama and they're driving up, right? They're driving north, and then they wind up driving through Niagara Falls, New York. They're confused. Number one, they think it's the city of Buffalo, and it's not. It's a totally different city, right? The best way I can explain it is like if Long Beach was next to Los Angeles, right? Like, well, not if, but they are. It's two different areas, right? Buffalo is a different city than Niagara Falls, New York, right? Number one. And number two, they come through and they see it, and they're like, what the fuck, right? Because they're not expecting it to look the way it does, right? They think Niagara Falls, they either think it's in the middle of the woods, or they expect it to be like a Malibu, or like a, I don't know, like a Hamptons, or like a Long Island or something like that, like a nice, maybe like a beach community or something, I don't know, like with a boardwalk. And what they don't understand is basically like Gary, Indiana with a waterfall, or like a small Flint or Detroit, or like Atlantic City or something. So I need to break down really some real quick things about it, right? So number one, let's talk about it right now, right? So right now, if you Google it, right, and they say men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. All you have to do is go to Google and search what is the current, or, you know, Niagara Falls, New York, violent crime rate, and how does it compare to the rest of the U.S., right? If you want, I'll even break it down even further. Like, I grew up on Cleveland Avenue, which is downtown. My zip code was 14305, right? So if you go to ChatGPT, right, you can go to ChatGPT and say, research the violent crime rate of 14305 and how does it compare to the rest of the zip codes nationwide. It's like more dangerous than like 93% of all zip codes. You know how Detroit has like it had the auto industry and auto manufacturing and all that? Well, Niagara Falls, New York was chemical factories and hydroelectric plants. And these plants brought in thousands and thousands of employees. In 1960, the peak population of just Niagara Falls, New York was 102 102,000 people. To put that in perspective, that's modern day Compton, California. Like, you know, it's not a major city like Chicago, but 102,000 people is not, I mean, they, you know what I mean? Like, it's not a small amount. Like, people try to play it off like it's like Dawson's Creek or some shit with like 10 people in it. You know what I mean? Like, there used to be a huge number of people. And then what happened was all the industry collapsed, right? Which is kind of the same thing that happened to Gary and Flint and Detroit and Cleveland and Youngstown, Ohio and Rochester and Buffalo and Syracuse and da-da-da-da-da. Right? So that's the same thing that happened, right? Except it happened next to like a world wonder, right? So the economy of the city was never tourism, right? Because people kind of get that confused. They think that it's like, I don't know, like maybe like a Hamptons or something where their money comes in from just people visiting from out of town, right? Like, no, the money, the economy in that town was always the factories. That was always the factories, and there never was an intention to make it tourism, right? So the Canadians, on the other hand, they also had factories, right? They try to play it like people try to say, oh, it was only tourism that brought it up big. So here's what it is, right? Geographically speaking, okay, and this is just the truth. The view of Niagara Falls, the waterfall, is better from the Canadian side, right? So that naturally attracts millions of people to that side to look at it, right? Because when you want to take a photo with you and your wife or you and your kids, you want you in the front and the thing behind you, right? So, you know, so you can get a photo, so you can show your friends, look where I was, right? So you got the water right behind you. On the U.S. side, you're like this. It's right here to my left, and you only kind of see it from the side, right? So nobody wants to take a photo like that. Nobody wants to see it like that. You know what I mean? They want to go to the Canadian side. So the Canadians, you know, because if you go to Canada, you're gonna notice the difference between the two. The Canadian side is built up, a lot of skyscrapers, there's all hotels and casinos, and there's only, on the U.S. side, there's only like one big building, which is the Seneca Niagara Casino, right? And everybody's like, well, why don't you do the same thing? Because nobody's building anything on the U.S. side, because there's just everybody wants to go to the Canadian side because the view's better. So what the Canadians, you know, everybody's like, well, the Canadians are focusing on tourism, right? Because I'm going on a tangent. So the Canadians, they had a pool of people that they could take money from, right? Because they're sitting right there on their side. So they were like, okay, well, let's build a Ferris wheel and a Clifton Hill and all these little attractions and stuff. But people don't naturally form like that on the U.S. side. So you can't really make money like that on the U.S. side. I mean, you can, you know, like if people go to like Goat Island, right, where they see the water, you can charge them money, but all that money goes to Albany anyways, and they filter that out to the rest of the state. So like the money that comes from the tourists that come to the area doesn't go to the city, doesn't go to the people in the area. If there's any money at all, it goes to the state, and they split it apart. So to go back to my original thing about the factories, when that collapsed, just like Detroit, just like Flint, all that, you know, the area got poor, right? But you also had a few other dynamics happening at the same time that are unique to Niagara Falls, New York, right? So the factory issue, right? That's the economic base of the city, right? Take that and move that over. You also had another dynamic. The culture of the city was always like a crime culture. And what I mean by that is, because it's a two-prong issue that's going on. You have the poverty, which is because of the factories collapsing. Then you've got the crime, which is the culture of the city, which was started as a mafia city, okay? So if you do any research on the mob, this is another thing that's being completely written out of the books, okay? Is that when Lucky Luciano was in New York City, right, and he sat down and made the commission, the mafia, okay? They always, the movies and TV, they always make it look like it was just 5 dudes, and it was just New York City and nowhere else, right? That's bullshit. There were 7 of them, okay? It was the 5 families in New York, Al Capone in Chicago, because he was a commission boss, and then Stefano Magaddino in Niagara Falls, New York, okay? So this was a guy, okay, which I've done 1,000 other videos on, but nobody wants to watch them, so whatever. This dude was from Sicily, goes to Brooklyn, networks, catches a body in New Jersey, and then flees to Niagara Falls, New York, where he sets up his base of operations for 50 years, okay? That whole town, Niagara Falls, New York, the 100,000 people, it turned into like think of it like a cartel controlled area, you know, like in modern day Mexico, you've got like the Cali cartel or the Jalisco, and I don't know the names of them, but like I might be thinking about Colombia, but you've got the cartels. They control like this section of the state or this section of what. That's what it was like in Niagara Falls in New York State and shit from 1920s all the way till 1974, right? So you have this culture of a city that's just straight mob, okay, for 50 years, and everything that goes along with it. You know, all the shit you see in Goodfellas, Casino, all that stuff, that's what was happening there. So then, the guy running that, he dies in 1974. About 10 years goes by. Now, crack cocaine hits New York City. Hard, right? A lot of these crack dealers learned that if they leave New York and they go upstate, they can make more money, and it's not as dangerous, because in New York City, when they were selling crack, they had a shelf life of maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and then they were getting killed because there was so much competition. So they realized if they go to the cities up north, they can make more money and they won't get killed as quick, or, you know, they felt safer. So what they did was there's a train, right, that runs from New York City all the way to Niagara Falls, New York. It doesn't go to Buffalo, it goes to Niagara Falls, New York. There was a report, I think it was in 1991, I think it was either the Justice Department or the DEA, and they actually say in the report that Niagara Falls, New York in the late 80s was the main hub for crack cocaine in all of Western New York. It beat out Buffalo, it beat out Rochester. That's where everybody was going to that's where the plugs were. They were coming right from New York to Niagara Falls, right? So Niagara Falls goes from a mafia city to now there's a power vacuum because nobody's in control. So these guys can come into the city and nobody's stopping them, nobody's doing anything to them because there's nobody left in control anymore. So they destroyed the city, okay? And it hasn't been the same since. And then after crack, you've got the fentanyl crisis, which is going on now. It's just one thing after another, right? So you have that aspect of it. There's a report. It's called the GIVE, New York State, which is like Gun Initiative Violence Elimination something. Just look up gun report, GIVE, New York State, Niagara Falls. They'll give you all the numbers, okay? So going from 100,000 people, it just drops down to, I think now there's only about 48,000 people left. And there's 52 people shot, I think, in 2020, like 40-something people shot in 2021, and then like another 40 or 30-something shot. And now that doesn't sound like a lot, right, compared to like Chicago, which they're doing that like in one weekend, which I understand. But there's only 48,000 people in the whole town, right? So to put that into perspective, like if you were to put everybody in Niagara Falls in Yankee Stadium and like 52 people got shot in the stands, that would be world news. But nobody gives a shit because it's Niagara Falls, New York. It's kind of like, well, I don't give a fuck because it's not really like a glamour city like New York or LA, so nobody cares, right? And yeah, as people come through because they've never been told any of this, and they're like, oh, because they have no idea what the fuck's going on. They don't know where they are, right? They're getting lost on the way to fucking go to see the waterfall and shit. So you've got that, the deindustrialization for the economy, the crime culture from the mob to the crack epidemic. Now you've got the political issue, right? There's so much fucking political corruption in Niagara Falls. City Hall got raided. I was there like the day after it happened, taking photos and videos and shit, okay, by the FBI. Whose City Hall gets raided by the FBI? I Googled it. Like, I think New Orleans was one of them. You know what I mean? Like, somewhere in California. But, like, that's not normal, right? You don't normally have the FBI running up into City Hall taking boxes out and serving warrants and shit, right? Then we had another dude. He was the mayor of Niagara Falls, Vincenzo Anello. He got arrested by the feds and sent to federal prison for fraud. That was in like 2000, mid-2000s or something. Early to mid-2000s. In the early 90s, the FBI bugged City Hall because they were listening to the mayor that was running shit in the early 90s for illegal stuff. So, I mean, it's just constant one thing after another. Like when your mayor gets arrested and sent to federal prison, when a city hall gets raided by the FBI, like you could tell that an area is fucked up, right? And it just feels like there's just nobody in control. You've got that, right? Now you've got even more issues on top of that. You've got let's talk about environmental issues, right? You ever heard of Love Canal? I don't want to get into a whole thing because it's on YouTube. You can search it. Love Canal was basically the version of the 1970s version of Flint, Michigan, right? Again, because it's Niagara Falls, there's no network, there's no Netflix movies about it, there's no Hollywood films about it. You know what I mean? Like you just have to learn the shit on your own. They dumped like hundreds of millions of drums of toxic chemicals into a ditch, covered it up, let it rot for like 20 or 30 years, and then they built a school and a neighborhood on top of it, right? And a housing project called Griffin Manor. And then the shit leaked into everybody's basement. You know, babies were being stillborn. It was a whole thing. People had deformities, and you know the area still has a huge amount of cancer. You know, it's crazy. I've lost count of how many young people and adults that I've known who have passed away from cancer, including my own family members. Like, it's insane. Whereas I asked my wife, who's from Canada, she barely knows like one. I probably, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've lost count, right? So you've got that, right, which was kind of another punch to the gut for the city. So yeah, so this is just a quick summary of what I felt I needed to get off my chest for why the area is so fucked up. I brought Johnny Harris from Vox to Niagara Falls 6 years ago. We filmed the whole episode. It was going to be very informative. Vox killed the production, completely killed the production. It was going to be one of the best episodes ever. And it's information that I feel needs to get out there. I wrote a book, like 10 people bought it. But yeah, if this is a question that you've ever asked, here's your answer. You know what I mean? If you have any other questions, message in the comments below. I'll try to answer them. But yeah, that's my response. So I hope that was informative.